everyone. Today we are joined with Robin from Wooden Stories, who looks after some of our most popular brands, which are Sketch, Tolv and Nardadora. And we're lucky enough to have him in our flagship Hawthorn showroom today to answer some of our questions. So thank you, Robin, for coming in.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invite.
So to start us off, we would love to know what your personal favourite piece would be from Sketch, Tolv and Nardadora.
Tricky question. Personal favourite. Does it mean, is the question me favourite because it makes us the most money, or favourite because it speaks to my heart as a...
Let's go with the heart.
Yeah, that's right. The question. Good one. In Sketch, I might say perhaps the odd bar stool. It's a very, very simple, well, it looks simple, it's quite complicated, but it's a fairly modest little kitchen counter stool. I think I like that both because it's just aesthetically very pure. It involves quite a lot of craftsmanship, the type of craftsmanship that we feel that we're very good at. And because it sells a lot, actually. So it ticks all of the boxes.
Yeah, that's a bonus.
And I think even though it's such a simple item, you could almost say we've built a brand around that, where that has all of the characteristics that we feel are important to Sketch. And it's kind of humble in a way, but if you look closely enough at it, and particularly I think people who are involved in furniture and the design or manufacturing, they can see how much thought and detailing has gone into that. Yeah. So it's kind of very quietly special.
Yes.
Which is, I like it for that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know from a lot of our customer response as well, if they're coming in to see a Sketch stool, it's usually that one. So it's definitely one that people keep their eye out for sure.
I can see, particularly in Australia, how popular that is, because on our Instagram feed pops up literally almost daily where somebody has made their kitchen look beautiful by putting three of our odd stools along the counter and taking the picture like that.
Yeah.
That's very pleasing too.
Yeah, definitely. And what would you say the best selling piece, maybe in the last 12 months, would be from Wooden Stories?
It tends to be fairly constant, actually, the best selling piece. Again, if we're going through Sketch, I'd say probably the Nisei chair.
Yeah. And
the Nisei chair would be a sort of also similar to the odd bar stool in that it's kind of got our handwriting all over it.
Yeah.
Where it's not a flashy piece, it's a very sort of cozy, homey piece, yet it does showcase quite a lot of craftsmanship in that there's quite a lot of time and skill required to make that, which, I mean, this is not necessarily something that's supposed to jump out and appeal to the customer, the end user, just because it's difficult to make. That's not the part. But somehow it kind of indirectly speaks to them. It comes across as it's like a sort of modest luxury, a kind of a soft type of luxury that's not bling. It's just very homey and cozy.
Yeah.
That's been a tremendous performer for us ever since it launched, which is, I think, about 7 years ago.
Wow. Yeah. Is it normal to have, or I guess typical to have items in your collection for that amount of time, or do you sort of see things only last a few years?
No, probably some of the best sellers are the ones that have been around almost since the beginning.
Yeah.
The Humla series would be one of those where, I mean, it started literally just as a collection of 2 or maybe it was 3 round coffee tables, and we just from the popularity it kind of branched out into shelves and TV shelves, and it grew quite a lot. Just because, again, it was sort of very, very, very simple, but somehow just works, and there's enough of a little bit of a story, some very simple details in it that have a wide appeal.
Yeah.
Some of the older models that have been around for a while, that's why they're around, because they just continue to please people, to do very well.
Yeah, beautiful. And trends forecasting, let's say in the next year to 2 years, are there anything that's upcoming from Wooden Stories that we should keep our eye out for?
trends is a tricky one to answer because, to be honest, we're not really we're not sure how deeply into trends we are. We're kind of almost non-trend, where we work with designers and they have a certain thing that they want to. They show us that they think they've thought of something that would fit us, or we ask the designer to do something that we think is in their wheelhouse or their comfort zone. It's more to do with like a relationship between us, the designer, the partners that we work with, where we think, wouldn't it be nice to have A or B or C? And that could be a shape, a function, a material, anything like that. Yeah. Where it's not really, okay, this type of thing is on trend now, let's get on to it. More almost ignoring trends is probably where we are. I can't really think of any examples that would yeah, new trends coming out. There are new products coming out for sure, which then we'll be showing to our partners in March, and we'll probably end up in here around July or August, I would imagine. Yeah.
Beautiful. Can't wait. So in terms of, I guess, the three, Sketch, Tolv, and Nardadora, what would you say are the unique selling points for each of those brands?
Unique selling points. Do you mean more like unique characteristics of them, perhaps? Yeah, I mean, there's a bit of crossover since they're kind of the materials and then the production themselves are shared. But in terms of like aesthetic, the identity that we're trying to create for them, I'd say Sketch is the one which is the most approachable. It's fairly agnostic, where we're not all that too precious about what is the style of Sketch. We're fairly open to trying out new styles, working with new designers, even more than working with new designers, keeping going with the older designers who've sort of helped create the identity of what Sketch is now. So just sort of continuity of that. Yeah. We're not looking to be edgy or provoking or anything like that. It's more sort of open. It's essentially Scandinavian, especially in its roots, in its beginnings. It's very Danish in its roots. But having said that, we are always very responsive and sort of interested to interact and have this kind of circular discussion with our dealers. And because we're very strong in Australia, New Zealand, this region, it's kind of informed by the feedback, the response that we get from our partners here. So it's since its beginnings, it's been, I would say it's heavily been influenced by the let's say the trends or the success that we've had in this region that's fed back into us. So you could kind of say it's a bit of a hybrid between Danish and Australian design, essentially, and also because we work now more with Australian and New Zealand-based designers as well because of that. So that's kind of changed the face of it a little bit. Nardadora, where we're sitting now, it's a kind of a darker, more masculine, a little bit sharper, harder feeling, not necessarily the actual seating comfort, just the visual aspect of it, where like we see in front of us, we might have harder shapes. It's, even though most of the designs in Nardadora are coming from Cameron Fogo, who's a New Zealand designer, currently, lately, for a long time Australian based, but his sensibilities it's quite a mix. He's got very eclectic tastes, but there's a strong mid-century feeling in there, but there's also a bit of a sort of a Italian vibe going on there, but not necessarily today's Italian, kind of 70s Italian. Yeah. Again, there's no one word that can really sum it up. It's a mix of a lot of different influences. Kind of quite hard to put your finger on it, but visually we would hope that it has got that a little bit more, a little bit moody kind of feeling to it. Yeah. And then lastly, Tolv would be a little bit more strongly design focused, where with Tolv we're not all that concerned about sort of how wide the appeal can be, how we can please everybody, how much can we sell of this. We're focused a lot more on each design individually being interesting. It could stand alone.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to necessarily sort of integrate in like a continuous flow with the other pieces. We work then with different designers for Tove, which have that characteristic that we're searching for. Something interesting. It can be a little bit quirky.
Yeah.
Some of them are, are big hits, just because eventually, inevitably, some of them will sell better than others.
Yeah.
Some of them are not big hits precisely because we haven't really sought to get hits. We're more looking at sort of interesting content.
Yeah.
So for that reason, it's kind of more design focused, and I think we get more attention on the Tove products from like interior designers, people like that, who can then recognize and appreciate, oh look, there's something a bit interesting, a bit special going on here.
Yeah.
So yeah, each of the brands have a slightly different direction, a different role to play.
Yeah, definitely. I think we can sort of see that here as well. As we were speaking about before, in this showroom, we always try to have sort of dedicated spaces for each brand, and that obviously falls into the 3 brands as well, with Sketch, Tove and Nardadora. And I think if you look at each space in the showroom, you can sort of see the differences between
I think you've styled it appropriate like that. I think you've got the idea of where it sits.
We try anyway.
Very good. You do a great job.
So in terms of the process of selecting or working with designers, what does that sort of look like? Is that something that you see what people are doing and you reach out to them, or do you have people wanting to work with you guys?
Both, actually. Both? It works both ways. So sometimes we would come across some work, some designs, some products, or just a designer's profile and see what they've done and go, wow, that's really like it. Perhaps we could have some of that designer's pieces have them in our collection, have them do something for us. And the other way around, we get quite a lot of design offices contacting us saying, okay, we like what you're doing. Can we present something to you? We've got some ideas, or can we have a discussion and see if there's somewhere we can kind of get an agreement and we'll do something for you. So it's gone both ways. And both of them are very interesting ways to do it. I think it's quite a big important thing for us, because essentially the output from the designer will influence the overall tone, the identity, the personality of the brand, and that's something obviously that we it's quite it's an important factor for us. So kind of getting to know the designer and understanding them and simply liking them. It's like, we dig this person, they dig us, we get along, we understand each other. That's an important factor in it too.
Yeah, definitely.
Hopefully then out of that the product will come, which sort of aligns then with those values, those ideas. But it's more than just the product, let's say. That we're looking at. And totally. what other work that designer has done, where they've come from. But there's of course many ways of going about it. Nardadora, in fact, came out of that way, where we were looking for to create this kind of style, and the designers at that time that we were currently working with, it was a different style. It was still very Scandinavian, a lot more sort of casual and bright. And I came across some designs that just appealed to me, and I thought, wow, that's the kind of thing we were looking for. I figured out it turned out it was Cameron Fogel.
Right.
I contacted him. I said, your design aesthetic is something that we've been looking for. Can we work together? That's where it started, and he kind of got to know us, had a look at our factory, and he thought, I'd really like to be involved in this. And that Nardadora came out of that.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, beautiful. It sounds like quite an organic sort of way of getting all these pieces together.
And it just went from success to success, so we just kind of kept going. And we have quite a lot of products from Cameron and still more to come.
Yeah, beautiful. Now, we've got a brief snippet of some of the fabrics here. This obviously isn't all the fabrics
Right.
from Wooden
Yeah.
Stories.
Yeah.
These are
Yeah.
sort of, I mean, I guess the ones that people are wanting to see on a larger scale. In terms of selecting the fabrics, we know there's been a lot of new fabrics and leathers been introduced to the Wooden Stories collection. Is there anything in particular you're looking for when it comes to selecting these fabrics, or does it come down to just the way it looks, or are there many different factors that go into it?
I suppose there are many different factors, but the main thing is, you know, you like it or you don't. It's quite a kind of an emotional thing. We get a fabric, we look at swatches or whatever. Very often the suppliers that we work with, there's a few different mills in Italy, Belgium, and now and then they'll either send us stuff, or by request we'll tell them, look, we're looking for this type of thing, that type of thing. They'll send it to us. You look at it, you touch it with your hand. It's kind of instinctive almost. I think that's at least the first step to bring it into contention, whether we're going to carry it or not. There is a part of it where we don't have too much overlapping, like too much fabrics that all look the same and do the same job. This is purely from kind of inventory logistics point of view. So we do bring that into consideration. We look at the performance of the fabric. It's no point having a really beautiful fabric if it's going to fade too quickly or it doesn't stand up to wear and tear. So of course we will look at the test results to make sure that the fabric is durable enough. And in some cases we may categorize it to say this is a little bit of a delicate fabric. It's fine for residential. We wouldn't recommend for, say, hard, heavy commercial use.
Yeah.
And there are fabrics like that.
Yeah.
We look a little bit at trends in terms of the type of fabric or the type of colouring that seem to be in demand in the market right now. And that might dictate a little bit of how we choose, but more or less kind of comes down to our own personal taste, or sometimes we'll show it to the designers that we work with, ask them to select from their own, because they would have a better sensibility of it than we would have ourselves. And on an occasion then we'll also just ask some of our partners to say, look, we think we like this range of fabrics, which 3 colours would you pick? Which 3 colours would you like us to carry?
Yeah.
So there's kind of quite a lot of discussion goes into it, because when we onboard a new fabric, we have to buy quite a lot of it to bring it in, make sure people get some of it onto the floor and display, make sure we have enough in stock to keep going. So it's quite a commitment to bring in a new fabric, so we don't take it lightly.
Yeah, definitely. Now, lastly, what product would you consider from both Sketch, Tolv and Nardadora to be the key signature piece of that brand?
Nardadora, I think the key signature piece for me is the archive sofa.
Yeah.
Partly I say that because that's the product that connected us, that led me to Cameron Fogel, finding him.
Yeah.
And we brought that in, and that sort of sums up, I think, very well both kind of what our factory does well and Cameron's design aesthetic. So that's quite a special piece for me in Nardadora. Let's say in Tolv, I would probably pick the inlay chair. Again, it looks initially very, very simple.
Yeah.
It's very minimal. There's not a lot to it, just in terms of if you just have a quick look at it. But actually, in terms of the manufacturing, there's quite a lot of tricky things going on in there, which again are not meant to. They're not meant to be obvious to the casual viewer. In fact, if they are obvious, we've not done our job properly. They're meant to almost go unnoticed. You sort of notice them subliminally, or there's some reason that you like it, you're not quite sure why.
It's that effortless look.
Exactly. Some effortless look. There's some details there which the designer has put a lot of thought into, the factory's put a lot of effort into executing them. And the end result is something that's very, very elegant and seems to be sort of effortless and very casual.
Yeah.
And that sort of speaks to me, that it appeals to me a lot for that one.
Yeah.
Sketch, sorry, which represents, like you're talking about, which
Yeah, sort of.
sums up the whole.
Yeah, a good summary product, I guess.
Yeah. Maybe currently the Eden table.
Yeah.
This is Patrick Coca's design. I mean, I love it just purely visually, like looking at it, I think it's fantastic. It's a really organic shape. There's not a single straight line in there. That it's combining materials together is something that we do quite a lot of that right in front of us. You can see also there's 3 materials combined in this table.
Yeah.
This mixing with the timber legs and the stone top, both of them being sort of honed down to this very soft, subtle organic shapes. You know, the design for this Eden table, it was inspired by some stones on the stone rock formations on the beach down at Eden in New South Wales, where Patrick would go as a kid with his family, and there's this nice backstory to that where the inspiration came from, and it came from natural shapes, so they're all organic, and also kind of from a behind the scenes point of view, where it's what our factory does well. A lot of these not really machined geometrical shapes, more organic shapes that sort of take a lot of time and care, and I think the overall result of it is again, it's sort of quietly stunning.
Yeah.
So that for me at the moment, I think, is one of these.
Yeah.
A good representation of the brand.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, thank you. That just about covers it from me. Thank you again for joining us in the showroom
My
today.
pleasure, absolutely.
It's been invaluable hearing from the brand directly. It's always good to get that extra information that sometimes we don't think about or customers might not think about. It's been great. We might take an opportunity now to go around our flagship showroom here and point out some of the Sketch 12 and Nutadora pieces here and what makes them so special and why they sell so great.
Brilliant. Look
Awesome.
forward to that. Thank you very much.
I have here the Sensu lounge chair and the Hummler end table here, both by Sketch. If you just wanted to talk us through sort of the key design features and maybe if you know some of the inspiration behind these pieces as well.
The Hummler is one of our oldest products. I think this is designed by Morten Gerson, who's quite a veteran. I don't want to call him old, he'll be upset, but a veteran designer who's done a lot of work, starting off with Bang & Olufsen, actually. I think he launched his career. This is kind of borrowing from the design language of, I think his name was Hans Bowling. There's a sort of a famous tray table in the lexicon of classic Danish designs that probably informed this one, and this is a kind of a modern revision of it, let's say. It's all about super minimalism with, again, it seems very simple, but there's a few nice little details where the edge is solid wood and there's some finger joint details there that show a bit of craftsmanship. The solid wood being a little bit softened on the corners there just to give it a nicer, smoother touch. But it's basic and there's not that much to it, and it just kind of does its job quietly. And it seems to appeal to a huge amount of people.
Yes, definitely. And the lounge chairs as well. This has been a new addition for Trit in the last year or so. Yeah,
this is a new product for us. This is Patrick Coca's design. He's, if you want to call him local, given that he's from Sydney, local for your Sydney branch,
claim,
maybe. The Sydney branch can call him a local designer. This is Patrick is very good, particularly at kind of timber, woodwork. He's got a very deep knowledge, very strong technical knowledge, and we basically challenged him to say, like, to come up with a lounge chair that sort of, it's kind of homey, but it's also got a lot of interesting detail that can then also showcase our woodwork skills. probably need to look at it from the back as much as from the front, because we've
maybe
got
we will.
what's kind of special about it comes as much from the side and the back, where you've got these sweeping arms that come down in a very nice angle that kind of just gives you a little bit of support under your arms, but the spokes on the backrest, and this is actually, it's kind of spun off from, there's a bed that he designed for us that has this spoke back headrest, and we were so pleased with that, we thought, look, couldn't we also make this in a lounge chair that would be, you know, fairly visually interesting, but again, not too spiky. It's got to be able to just sit in your home comfortably, and I think that's what we've done with that. It's interesting, I think, where the arm and the leg, they come up together and join together. Also, there's just little subtle parts that you don't really tell until you go up close, where maybe this side of it is flat, but on the inside of it is rounded. There's subtle details like that. Again, they're not meant to jump out and grab you. It's just something that somehow makes it flow better, makes it interesting without being too provocative or It's not meant to be too sort of intellectual. It's fairly simple and straightforward.
Yeah, beautiful. There's also another Trit favorite, or classic you could say. This is the cantaloupe chair in the ivory summer fabric, which is also probably one of our more popular fabrics in terms of sofas and lounge chairs. So if you just wanted to talk us through this particular piece as well.
This is fairly recent, also from Cameron Fogo. It's maybe 2 years ago we may have done this. There's a sort of like an architectural feel to it, where there's different beams in different angles that all support each other. I think it appeals to a lot of people because it's got almost like a kind of a deck chair quality, and a deck chair definitely means you're relaxing, having a good time, you're in enjoyment mode. I like the contrast between the very sort of geometric architectural aspect of the frame and then this very casual sort of futon style cushion that just plops on top casually like that. The nice kind of juxtaposition of the kind of the soft with the rigid. There's this part which sometimes people kind of overlook, where it's hanging over the back. That's kind of the design, but some people, you know, everybody's got a different size body or a different posture. Sometimes putting it like that just gives you that nice little extra bit of cushion there behind you, which is a nice little expert tip on how to use your cantaloupe chair.
I'll remember that one.
And then the webbing underneath here is something that is a bit of a special technique for us that you don't see a lot on other furniture, where we use the webbing we use here. This is not elastic, because elastic has a tendency to sort of stretch and sag over time. This is a material that they use for car seat belts. Which obviously, by definition, you know, cannot stretch and sag.
You would hope not.
Tear. It's very, very strong. And so because we weave it like that with this material, there's no sagging and stretching, so it should keep the same tension all the time. Also, it's another chair which is kind of from the back, from the sides, is sort of the best angles I would think for this, where, you know, there's a lovely arrangement of the frame and then the panel here.
Definitely. It's sort of almost a really important feature of a lounge chair, having the back also be just as visually interesting as the front, because you never know where it's going to be placed.
So in so many situations just like this, where you might have the sofa against the wall and two lounge chairs out in front of it, where you're looking at the back, just a bit like a dining chair.
Exactly.
Where we always sort of design dining chairs, you're looking front on, but in fact the back of the dining chair is visually is the most important part of it. And with lounge chairs that's could also be the case. Definitely.
There is one more piece I want to chat about downstairs, the attendant. and then we might go up, is probably what I would consider a signature Nardadora piece, I suppose. It kind of has that really nice masculine edge to it, and the materials used as well sort of, I feel like, fits in quite nicely with the aesthetic of Nardadora. It's also a personal favourite of mine as well. So this is the attendant lounge chair. It does also come in a sofa as well. Like a lot of your products, you've got the option to have the sofa or the chair. We've got it in the chair here in the new fleece fabric. If you wanted to have a little chat about this particular piece.
Right. Well, as you've mentioned, fleece, just the fact that fleece is, I hope I got my numbers correctly now, it's 50-something% recycled. So it's a majority recycled content fabric. So there's a sustainability story to that as well. This is quite a simple design. There's not a huge amount to discuss about it. But I think one thing that I do like, and it's a deliberate part of it, is that, and this is common to most of Cameron's upholstery actually, is where there's a certain kind of casual sagginess in it where it's a little bit of wrinkle, a little bit of sort of laid back, casual, and that contrasts nicely with the sort of strong, straight, hard part of the frame underneath and the legs. It's quite compact, yet it's very cozy, very comfortable, generous seating. Ticks a lot of boxes. I think having the French seam here on the arms, the seat, top of the backrest, defines the form quite nicely, while also making it the French seam always makes something a little bit more casual feeling. The way it's kind of protruding out from here. So it's a nice combination of the more linear part on the base and then the more casual on the top.
Yeah, beautiful. So here we've got a mainly Nardadora setup. We've got the archive, we've obviously got the sketch Nisei chairs, as well as the marble pivot table. Probably some of Trit's most asked about or most popular items we've had. If you wanted to maybe have a little chat about these key pieces here and the fabrics or the leathers or whatever catches your eye.
Well, to start with the archive, as we talked about in the earlier interview, this is definitely a signature piece for Nardadora. To me, especially, it kind of defines the brand in a way. This one particularly is very strong mid-century language.
Yeah, definitely.
The bolsters here, the lumbar cushions here, I think there's something very mid-century in the aesthetic of that. The legs as well, being like most of the Nardadora designs are sort of metal leg, which is obviously more of a modern thing. But if we're going back talking mid-century, it would definitely be wood leg with a bit of carving. And there's a very nice detail, which is probably hard to get from far off. But the way the grain of the leg here just is embedded partly in the frame underneath there. Again, it's quite subtle because most of the time it'll be more or less hidden by the cushion. But it's a nice design, a nice bit of craftsmanship that's just hidden a little bit in there. Which appeals a lot to me. Particularly with walnut, where you get the two different grain directions working against each other. It's a nice contrast.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a fairly modest size, a kind of a low, not too fat, meaty shape, and it's kind of the general volume of it is not too much, which is something I really like.
Yeah, definitely. Especially the espresso, I believe, the leather. I feel like it's not a leather that you see a lot, but for this particular design, it just fits so perfectly. Yeah,
I think trends at the moment tend to go very much, at least in leather, towards the more sort of tan, camel, Montana Canyon color, or else going almost white. But for this one, I think this dark brown, because it definitely is much more of a kind of of that era. This color fits it very well, and heritage, especially because it's got a slight sheen on it. It's a little bit kind of glossy, oily finish. And that accentuates these lovely kind of soft wrinkles that you get in the seat and in the back. And this is a feature of Cameron's sofas there, where in the beginning when we started working with them, we would fill all the cushions as we normally would so that they're well filled.
Yeah.
And he was always, no, less filling. This looks too bloated.
Yeah.
It's like a balloon, and we don't like that. He wanted it to be much more slack, casual, like deliberately, where after you've sat on it, particularly like sit on it, get up.
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful part of it, where this really epitomizes casual, relaxed elegance.
Yeah. Not
and
perfect.
kind of, it's a mature look. It's like we've grown up. We've outgrown all that pop kind of fancy stuff. Now we're ready to kind of just relax, chill out. It's much less Taylor Swift, much more Leonard Cohen. Let's say.
Yeah. Couldn't describe it any better.
Yeah, that came off the top of my head. I hope it's appropriate.
Yeah, we'll use that quote later on.
You might have their agents contacting you.
Oh yeah. We'll wait for the cease and desist. So this pivot here, this one has got quite a number of different options you can choose from. There's the rectangle version, there's the timber version, the marble version, travertine. So it sort of ticks all the boxes, I guess, for a lot of our customers.
Yeah.
They could be looking for a coffee table, and this one and any of those variations could be that exact match. It does almost have quite a simple design, yet it also stands out quite a bit as well, which is also very interesting.
This is maybe a little bit actually unusual in our collection. Like you say, all of the shapes are geometrical shapes. Basically, it's nearly all made up of circles and cylinders, apart from the central two axis. Yet the way they're put together makes it quite exciting. It's eye-catching, yet since it's all circles, there's something very harmonious about it.
Yeah.
The dowel part of the front leg just coming up through the top, obviously that's a distinctive feature of it. And it kind of just accentuates the contrast of the two different materials working together.
Yeah.
Obviously with this, the marble version is, I would say, the more interesting, because you get the two materials working together, and then of course it comes down to the selection and the quality of the marble also.
Yeah.
In this one you've chosen our what we call Nero Perlato, which is a black marble with quite a bit of white in it, and it's got a really beautiful matte finish. Of course with marble tables it's all about how beautiful the marble is.
Yes.
But it's a strong favourite of ours as well.
Yeah, definitely. I can see why. The Nisei chair here, we've had, usually on the floor, we'll display it in the oak, in the canyon, or the boucle, the milk bugello. But I find the black oak and the green almost makes it look like a bit of a different chair. It almost changes some of the characteristics. Whereas the oak, I don't know, I feel like there's some sort of key differences between having it in a nice light finish versus this, which almost matches in quite well with the Nardadora aesthetic, even though it is sketch.
It changes the vibe quite a lot. It does make it less sketch when it's kind of presented like that. Like you say, it kind of allows it to trespass a bit into Nardadora territory. And that's kind of the fun thing, where you have a wooden frame and upholstered cushions. You can play with quite a lot of combinations. It's not just the upholstery, it's the upholstery and the mix, how it combines with the timber.
Definitely.
The Nisei chair also comes in solid walnut. Something we do really well with. In Japan, the walnut version is like our main one.
Wow.
And then, kind of gives it another dimension. Honestly, I've never seen a bad one. It's kind of beautiful in every combination, 100%. Even those which you thought to begin with, wow, that's a strange choice. And it's like, hey, it works. It's quite special in that way. Yeah,
definitely. It's interesting. I feel like for a while, Melbourne interiors weren't really interested in having walnut or darker woods, but I feel like that's sort of where we're heading now. I don't know why, or why the timing works out like that, but I feel like we're seeing a lot more black oak being used and walnut. Maybe people are just sick of seeing oak all the time, I'm not sure.
I think that's it.
But
when we first started working with Australian, it was literally all oak. Oak, and we're offering, saying we do it in walnut too, and they're like, no, we don't do walnut. Nobody was interested. And I think it's a trend where oak in its natural, like light oak, that's not a trend that's always going to be there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not going to be ever in or out of fashion. That's the standard. The other colors will come and go, I think.
Yeah.
And it's nice. I think, yeah, like you said, and there's too much. The market is probably already saturated with that amount of just pale oak with maybe some white marble and maybe some linen, and there's a lot of that. And I think it's time to, people are kind of going, yeah, okay, now we need
something else.
A change of mood.
Yeah.
And this is definitely a very easy way to get at it, with a design that you know for sure is a winner no matter what. And you just give it a different expression, and already you're kind of transforming the look.
100%. Yeah, it's interesting how much the upholstery really plays into the overall design.
Yeah, massive.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, we might head over here. So, some other new pieces for us in our Hawthorn showroom are the Cora dining table in the marble with the walnut, and the Com dining chair in that fleece fabric again, which we saw briefly earlier. These particular items work so well together. I'm not sure if it's because the table stands out so much as its own piece and the chair is almost a bit more laid back that it pairs so well. Do you think there's certain pieces that do work better together, or are each piece sort of standalone pieces in their own right?
Like you said, there's some pieces that are very strong.
Yeah.
And maybe like if you have two strong pieces together, there's a little bit of a conflict going on.
Yeah.
And I think you summed it up correctly, where the Com chair is quite a modest, unassuming, straightforward shape. I mean, at least at first sight.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really threaten or compete at all with the stronger personality of the Cora. It's quite a compact table, so you don't want a massive chair here upsetting the balance. I think the sizing is just about right, the scale of this chair to that table. It does tend to happen that if one of them is fairly modest and the other one is quite strong, then that's a nice way of pairing them together. The Com it's kind of a straightforward, simple shape, but there's a little bit of kind of character, and also it's part of the comfort as well, where you get a little bit of arch here in the back and then a little bit of hollow there.
Yeah.
And that's something where just a little bit of tweaking in the balance just makes that comfort perfect.
Yeah.
Carlos, who I mentioned to you earlier, has one in his office with every chair that we have available to him to sit on for working every day. This is the only chair he'll sit on.
That's the one. Wow.
Yeah, that's the one, and it's personal. It's like this one.
Of course, yeah.
This one fits me.
Yeah.
And he has that, and that's the only chair he'll sit on.
How interesting. The marble that you use on this, and also the tathra table that we have just there, we've noticed it has such a smooth, almost buffed feel to the marble.
Yeah.
Is there a particular method to finishing the marble that has it, that makes it have that feel, or is that just the marble that?
Well, it's when the marble processor finishes off the marble, they kind of choose how much polishing they want to do.
Yeah.
So if you do very little, it's still quite raw and rough.
Yeah.
And then the level that we choose them to finish it out is called honed. So it's smoothed out.
Yeah.
It still has a little bit of texture left in it, but it's more or less smooth.
Yeah.
If you go further than that, then you get to polished.
Right.
So it gets very smooth and it gets kind of shiny, and we don't go that far. We like this level where it's honed. And then the other element that then changes is just how you finish it. So this has got a silicone-based sealer on it.
Right.
And just the selection of the combination of the materials and how they apply it is what gives you like that final feel on it.
Yeah.
So it's more a case of how the finisher, the marble supplier finishes it for you that makes it. Obviously, stone being a natural product, there'll be a little bit of variation from one to the other, more so in the travertine, because how much or how few holes and how much of them that we've filled and how much of them we've left open will vary from one top to another top. So that variation is quite big in travertine, and less so in the Carrara or the black Nero Perlato.
Yeah, beautiful. All right. So this is the glide chair, which we have finished here in the Alabama leather, which is a new leather option from Wooden Stories, at least newish to us anyway.
Right.
We're sort of used to seeing, I guess, the Canyon Montana from you guys, which is probably a signature leather, I suppose you could say.
Yes.
And this, I guess, is almost its sister leather or its brother leather, that it sort of has that same look but has a lot of different key elements to it, like its durability, its feel, its aesthetic, I guess, as well in certain ways. How important was it to try and not match, but I guess have that same vibe as the Canyon Montana, but also have its own unique characteristics as well with the Alabama?
How it came about is we had a huge success with the Montana leather, which is a full aniline, which makes it's very, very natural, soft, breathable, beautiful leather. It's not very resistant to scratches and stains, so that sometimes was a bit of an obstacle, particularly when you're showing it in a dining setting.
Yes.
Or when you for say commercial applications, it's really not that suitable. As I'm sure you know, there's plenty of semi-anilines or pigmented leathers in the market which are very durable for scratch and stains, but almost all of them tend to be very flat, lifeless, feel a bit plasticky. Something that we just didn't interest us, didn't fit right on our designs. So when we came across our leather supplier in Italy had been working on this and developed a semi-aniline which has the good properties of semi-aniline leathers, where it's quite resistant to scratches and stains, but it still has most of the natural grain and tone and softness, suppleness, and to a certain degree good breathability that you would get in a full aniline leather, but still is nice to touch and feel.
Yeah, definitely.
And that opened up a new opportunity for us to just have beautiful leather, even in dining settings where you really don't need to worry about what spills can wipe off. It's strong enough, but it still fits properly in our aesthetic. And we did start off with some different colors and darker tones of this kind of natural earthy color. But as you know, the Montana Canyon for us has been very, very popular. It's like by far the most popular color at the moment in leather. So it made sense to have nearly the same color tone in the durable version. So now that customers can pick which suits better their lifestyle, their needs. They may have small children or pets that they feel maybe that Montana is not suitable for them, then Alabama can do the job.
100%. Just recently, I had a client wanting the Nisei chair actually in the Canyon, but had so many concerns about the full aniline. And once we had sort of had a chat about this new leather here, especially in particular that wine test images that we have from earlier this year, where we left the wine on the leather for a certain amount of time and it was still able to wipe off. It's just so, I guess, important for so many customers to know that they can have that confidence in purchasing a leather product and not have to constantly worry that there's going to be issues.
The right to spill wine on your own furniture, it's a God-given right. You want to give people that freedom to be able to drink and enjoy without worrying about spoiling their premium furniture.
100%. It's very important. Got quite a number of pieces here in this setting, which all pair quite well together, I would say, despite them being from different branches of Wooden Stories. We've got the Tanbo ottoman here, which you were talking about a bit earlier, about the manufacturing and the use of the leather and how that sort of came to be, which really plays into your sustainability side of the business as well.
It was, this is something that wasn't led by, like, here's the design, now let's see how to make it. It came from the opposite approach, where producing so many leather sofas, we had a lot of cut-offs and scrap which are not bad enough that we would be comfortable throwing them out, and decided we'd have to find a way to make use of them. And the solution was just to make them a regular size, stitch them together and make an ottoman out of it. So even though it's kind of making use of scraps, it's done well enough that it doesn't look like you've made use of scraps. It looks like you've just come up with a nice new product. The inside of it also is made from scrap, where it's you make a sofa, you're cutting the foam, there's always cut-offs, bits that are, again, in many cases not big enough to then use somewhere else. It's just an odd-shaped chunk.
Yeah.
And we'll just mince those all up, and they go into the filling of that.
Right.
So, and it just worked out. It's actually really, really comfortable.
Yeah.
You sit on that and people go, wow, this is great. And it is actually really, really good comfort. From the point of view, talking more like for shop operations and for staff, it's a very good way also to show the customer all of the different kind of variations that you might get when using Montana Canyon.
Yeah.
Because we don't take we don't really take that much care about trying to get all the colors matching the way we would with a modular sofa.
Right. Yeah.
We just say, no, this is all about sort of random, natural.
Yeah.
Some of them will have maybe, I'm not sure if you can pick it up. There might be some areas that are a bit pinker or a bit darker.
Those marks there.
Yeah, we'll have marks again, which we might say, okay, we're trying to avoid having that on the seat or on a prominent part on the sofa.
Yeah.
But on the ottoman, since it's all about that kind of patchwork and being raw and natural, I mean, not, of course, nothing extreme, but a little bit, then we can allow that.
Yeah.
And we can allow different color tones. A little bit, maybe here is paler and that one's a bit darker.
Yeah.
And it's a nice way just to illustrate to customers the tone or even the grain, where maybe you've got some tighter, finer grain here, and here it's a bit loose and rough.
Loose, yeah.
Show them, look, this is all part of the different ways that natural leather can appear.
Yeah. It's a good point actually. It's a great example for some people, because not everyone might understand what they're getting with the full aniline leather. Of course, they should. So that's a really good
this is
thing
a good way
point
to
out.
illustrate it.
Yeah, definitely. The native coffee table here has been quite popular with Trit. Again, one of those tables that you've got a plethora of options to choose from. In my experience, I would say this combination here is probably the most popular with us. Anyway, we've got the terrazzo and the light oak. Why do you think that combination stands out the most for people?
I think it's just a very natural combination to have. This particular type of terrazzo we have, which we call Nuga.
Yeah.
It's interesting, a little bit lively, but not too much. It kind of blends with the rest of the interior in your house. It's a nice match with oak.
Yeah.
It's more or less white, and white goes with everything, and everybody likes to have some bright, light-colored furniture in their room.
Yeah.
So it kind of stands to reason. Makes a lot of sense that would be more popular than the other ones.
Yeah, definitely. Now, the sort of most talked about sofa since we've had it in the showroom has definitely been the eyelet sofa. We originally had it in the fixed 4-seater in the seaweed, which really stood out and really was a really popular piece and really got people interested. Just as interesting as the green is this beautiful fleece that we've seen again, and in a modular version with the chase. The eyelet is still relatively new, and it's already got quite a lot of different modules that you can pick from to customize and modify and really make your own. Do you see this being sort of another piece that we could potentially one day call a key piece that will stay in the Wooden Stories ranges for a while?
Like you say, it was just launched in March.
Yeah.
This means we show it to our partners in March, and it probably doesn't arrive into your place. I think we rushed it to get it into here.
Yeah, it was a last-minute edition for sure.
I think we rushed it for the first one, the 4-seater green one for the opening of the store. I think
we had the leather.
The first time you had it in.
Yeah.
But for most everyone else, because you actually got the one straight out of our own showroom.
Yeah, really.
There wasn't time to make a new one for you even.
Yeah.
Everyone else, I think, got it around very recently, June, July this year. And already
Trit exclusive.
we've had really strong feedback on that. Even just 2 or 3 days ago, I was in Auckland, and our partner there said, "Eyelet, everybody likes this. We've been doing tremendous. the look, the comfort, everything is really good about it.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
it's something that there's a nice bit of story to it with the wood plinth base, very chunky legs,
Yeah.
fat seat cushion, a little bit of a different comfort from our other sofas, I think, and also the back cushions as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very, very superior comfort. There's nothing really too quirky about it that would off-put anyone, so I think it should have fairly wide appeal, and then, like you say, the modularity then gives you a lot of flexibility that it'll fit into a lot of situations.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's been very, very, very popular. For a while, I probably would have said the Sloopy was my favourite sofa, but I think the Islet has now taken over that.
Okay.
All right. So to round us off, we might just talk about two of these products here. We've got the Farnsworth tall shelf here, which has a few different options that you can pick from, colours as well, which is great.
Yeah.
This is sort of, I guess, the perfect size shelf for a lot of people. In our Sydney showroom, we've also displayed it as one tall shelf, the middle size shelf, sort of creating almost a modular look to it, which also works really, really well. Although it's quite a straightforward, simple design, it really is something that people are coming in to view and see. Why do you think the Farnsworth is such a popular piece?
I think it's probably got a lot to do with the high quality of your customers, to be honest, because you can get a simple shelf anywhere.
Yeah.
But obviously you've got the kind of clientele who can appreciate the, again, subtle things which are not apparent to most people, like, say, proportions being nice, just the overall balance of the product. Some, again, details which they probably don't think about, but it's maybe the reason that they prefer it over another one that they've seen elsewhere.
Yeah.
It could be something like there's a really nice interplay of curves here, where again the leg, it's flat on this side and it's curved on the inside, and that curve cuts into the curve on the shelf here. So you've got two curves interacting. It's subtle, it's quiet, but it's pleasing.
Yeah. Yeah. All on the details.
There's another. Normally, you make a shelf like this, you would have to have some sort of framework underneath it, which would make it heavier, more meaty, a bit more clunky.
Yeah.
What they've done here, there's quite a subtle detail where there's an embedded locking system in under here, so that you can't see any hardware, you can't really see any of the structure. You just see the slim leg, the shelf that appears to float unsupported.
Yeah.
There's a lightness about it. I'm not sure if it sort of occurred to you or to the staff. The Farnsworth, the name of the Farnsworth is, of course, there's a very famous architectural piece called the Farnsworth House.
Right, yeah.
Designed by, and I'm going to really show how ignorant I am if I get the name wrong. I think it's Mies van der Rohe. It's like one of the Bauhaus architects.
Yeah.
And it was designed as a sort of a summer villa for somebody. It's called the Farnsworth House. And that is also is like a brutally simple structure with very linear, just a beautiful harmony about that. And this is inspired by that piece of architecture and therefore the name.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. And sort of following along with, I guess, that simple but really interesting design is the folk bench. Also got in the Canyon Montana leather here, mixed with the light oak, which is something that we just know works really well with your products. This bench here, you've got a few different sizes to pick from. Was this initially designed to sort of pair with maybe a dining table as a bench, or a standalone product on its own, or do you think it is equally works just as well?
It's a bit of both, and it kind of depends on the country. So originally, I kind of had it in mind that we'll have this in Japan as a bench to go with your dining table, which is a very popular thing in Japan. And in Japan, again, the rooms, the living situations, or the bedrooms are smaller. You don't really have a bench by a window or on the bed. Place for a bench is with a dining table, and that's it, you're done. But when we then sort of showed it to people outside Japan, to other markets, they're like, great, a bench, super. It's an occasional piece. It can be in your entranceway, your hallway, where you sit down to put on your shoes. at the end of a bed.
Yeah.
Really just kind of filling up a space by a window.
Yeah.
And I've seen it styled in Australia, in New Zealand, in many of these, just all types of situations, which, to be honest, we hadn't even really kind of thought that much about where and how is this going to be used. We just thought it's a nice form. There's, again, this nice combination of sort of subtle mix of details with curves working with other curves. You see the way the seat, or the bottom part of the seat is curved in here.
Yeah. Wow.
Which cuts into this part, and then there's another curve coming along here, and then the top of this is flat, which is leveled off with the wood portion of the seat.
Yeah.
And then that curve from the bottom is continued with the upholstery on the top.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of kind of harmony going on with the shapes matching very nicely into each other.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's all. We didn't really get too hung up on where and how is it going to be used, and it turns out it's used in all sorts of situations.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, for sure. I would say more recently, I would notice more people ordering benches for dining table purposes, which I haven't really seen up until quite recently. I would say everyone's sort of still stuck on the dining chair setup, but I would say it's definitely sort of something that's coming in a lot more. I don't know if people maybe have smaller spaces like that sort of Japan style where they need to utilize the space differently.
Not necessarily. I think there's just it's a very good thing to have, particularly families with kids. Because let's say you got, I don't know, 8, 9-year-old, 10-year-old kids. A chair like this with a proper backrest and everything on it, kids aren't even big enough to sort of get on it and even use the backrest, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of pointless to them to have a back on the chair, especially even smaller, let's say 5, 6-year-olds. And to get into a chair like that, they have to pull it out, get in, push it back in. With a bench, they can just sort of get on from behind.
Hop off, yeah.
You can get 4 or 5 kids on it.
Yeah.
2 chairs, you can still only get 2 kids, no matter how small they are. But you got your friends, your cousins come over.
Yeah, it's very true. Yeah.
You can squish them all together, or even with adults. It's like you don't need to get an extra chair off the balcony. You just scoot over a bit, and you can get one more person on there.
Yeah, that's very true.
This one also, the hover bench, we have a hover table and a bench that goes at the hover bench. That's also started very well because I just think there is more and more demand for a bench.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, I mean, it may not be such an issue with a large dining area, but with a smaller dining area, can't remember the English word for it now, I'm struggling. It takes up less space than a chair. It doesn't block your view. It's low down. It's low impact. Just makes the space feel a little bit more open. Yeah. And I think maybe people might choose it for that as well.
Yeah. There's probably a lot of things that go into it, but yeah, definitely. Beautiful. Well, I think we've covered a lot of different products and fabrics and materials. So we might leave it there. Beautiful.